Okay, I think we're live. This is the second part of our lecture this evening, and I am actually getting ready to go pick up the girls. So I'm going to have to pick up the pace a little bit on this one. Yes, you will notice that I am a saint. I have my halo. So let's wrap this up. So we're looking at properties of forces. How do we deal with forces? How do you add forces? What can you do with forces? And so we're going to look at forces as a vector, forces as something with both magnitude and direction, something that can be used for an addition to calculate where you think something's going to go. So this doesn't really matter if it is contact force or field force. It's all going to be able to be added pretty simply. Yay! All right, so again, of course, kind of got this down pat. We're going to go ahead, do a screen share. It'll turn black for transported. Okay, so forces have both magnitude and direction. When I say magnitude, you say number, right? Okay, so forces have magnitude and direction. Forces can be added. So what I have here is I have, let me get rid of my little hypotenuse here. I had two forces. So let's say that somebody was put north and a whole lot east. How would we be able to tell what direction it ends up going? Well, you're going to add, and this is a little bit ahead of schedule. This is maybe a little bit more 9th grade standards, maybe a little bit of physics standards, but you're going to add vectors head to tail. You're going to add these forces head to tail. So you're going to be able to come in here, do a squared, b squared, c squared, and get your resultant. But what you need to know is that forces have both magnitude and a number, that forces in fact can be added, and that the net force on an object is the sum of all the forces acting on that object. And the net force can change the object's direction or speed. When is there motion? So if there is no net force, if the net force is 0, the object is going to stay status quo. It's not just going to stay not at motion. So, oh, net force is 0, there's no motion. Well, if there was already motion, then there's going to continue to be motion. When the net force is greater than 0, the object's speed and or direction will change. When the net force is 0, the object remains at rest or continues to move. Now, let's see here if I've got my force guy ready to go here. I'm going to change this around just a little bit. Come over here. And we have an object. I'm going to change how much we're pushing on him. Do we have a quantity? Whoa, whoops. Not really sure. I think I crashed the dog into the wall. Let's reset everything. Reset all the settings. Sure, why not? Okay, so we've got a box, not a dog. We're not pushing a dog around. That's good. And we've got force of gravity and we've got normal force. And notice that the box is not falling through the floor and it's not levitating, which means these forces are equal and offsetting. Now, our crate here, now, again, we're not going to get into a lot of the physics, mathematics part of it, but we did put this on a slippery slope so that we can go ahead and begin to push it. And notice you pushed it, there's no friction. An object in motion is going to stay in motion. Isn't that cool? Let's change it to wood. Oh, guess what happens? It slows down. Why does it slow down? Because the frictional force was added in there. I do like the sum of the forces. I think that's great. Let's reset it. Reset all the settings. Oh, why? Sure. Okay, we're going to up our applied force. Notice right now, oh, where'd it go? Look at this right here. My applied force and my force of friction, they're the same. So it's not moving. I'm going to up it, up it, up it. Still not moving. Oh, look at that. Now it's moving. And it's going to slow back down. Pretty slick. Well, because of time, we can't play with it for very long. You feel free, go to PHET, and you can Google and you'll find it. Okay, point of reference. Point of reference, motion can be described in different ways by different observers. So I'm going to take us back to, not that, no, screen in a screen. That's not what I want. I'm going to shrink that down. That's just going to drive everybody crazy. I want this one. And then I'm going to come over here. Well, by golly, I thought for sure that I had a screen up that showed. I guess I didn't. Well, you know what? We can do it real quick. That's not going to hurt. Okay, if you Google air science practice test, it just takes a second. So you can sit there and think about the greatness of life. We'll contemplate. Oh, don't forget, real quick, there is Science Club game night tomorrow night. That sounds like a good time. We're going to be having pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? And it will be in the library from 4 to 8, but you're more than welcome to stay after school if you need to. Because of rides, you can just help me set up. You'll be my helpers. How does that work out? I appreciate it. Okay, we're almost there. Stay with me. One more click. Begin test. No. Okay, so remember, we're talking about reference point. So when we look at reference point here, we are looking at this question that comes up. This is part of the practice air test. And it shows us what types of reference points could be going on. Now, you could be from the reference point of an ant right along the road here. But we have a car just zipping down the highway. Maybe it's going 55, 60 miles an hour. We've got the school bus. Okay, if this guy's going 60, this guy's going 55. Well, how do we know it's going less? Well, look at the arrow. This is a bigger arrow than this. Okay, so if it's a bigger arrow, then it has a larger magnitude. That's just sort of a standard in physics. The bigger the arrow, the greater the magnitude. But the question asks you, from the perspective or the relative motion, the reference point of the car, how fast is everybody going? Well, first of all, when Johnny's driving and he looks over at Joe and says, hey, how was your day today? It does not look like Johnny or Joe is moving in reference to one another. So that reference point from the car to the car, there's no motion. Okay, this guy is going slower than this guy, so he's going to end up looking like he's going backwards a little bit. You've been there. You've been on the highway. You've seen those vehicles go backwards a little bit. Not really, but, you know, in reference to you. But this guy is going to look like he's going backwards really, really fast. So that's just reference point and what that can do for you. Okay, so point of reference, moving on. Forces continued. A force is described by its strength, its magnitude, its number, and in what direction it's acting. Many forces can act on a single object simultaneously. So back to this picture, we've got force of gravity, normal force, applied force, force of friction, and they're all pulling kind of in opposite directions, which means I've got this one set up to have a zero net force, which means there would be no change in its motion. If it's at rest, it's going to stay at rest. If it's moving, it's going to stay moving. We can add up the forces, and we just talked about this. So here it is. If it's stationary, it's going to stay stationary. Now, if I'm going to add these forces head to tail, I'm going to take, maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is 3 newtons. Ooh, that's a big N. 3 newtons that way. And this is 3 newtons that way. Okay, this is going to have a positive number. This is going to have a negative. In physics, negatives are pretty much just directional. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to add this head to tail. We're going to move this right on top. And look, we're right back to where we started. So our net force is 0. So we do add forces head to tail. Kinetic friction is the friction that occurs when two objects are in contact and they're already sliding. There is something called static friction. You'll learn about that when you see me again your junior year if you decide to take physics. But this phenomenon does lead up to the misconception that an object requires some sort of a sustained force. because people see stuff slow down and they're like, oh, it must have ran out of force. No, the friction caused it to stop. Oh, well, we already did this number 3 here, unbalanced forces. If you have unbalanced forces, you get movement. I am going to go back here just on the off chance that you didn't watch the first one. Shame on you. You should go back and watch that. But we're going to increase our applied force here. And as soon as it becomes unbalanced, we get, look at that, a sum. Uh-oh. Here, does it not sustain it? Well, I'll just leave my finger on it. You'll see up here, I was going to point, but that doesn't work. It's going faster, 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 faster. You're going to crash into that wall. What happens when he crashes? Oh, bonk. Okay. Well, anyways, you could see that the sum of the forces was to the right. Okay. There's a lot of really cool force graphs and things that I encourage you to check out. But like I said, I'm going to have to pick up the kiddos here soon. So we're going to keep moving along. And common misconceptions. So, common misconceptions. There's a misconception out there that the only natural motion is for an object to be at rest. No, some natural motion is in motion. If an object is at rest, no forces are acting upon it. You know that's not true. Gravity is acting on it. Normal forces are acting on it. You could even have an applied and frictional forces that are the same. Only animate objects can exert a force. Thus, if an object is at rest on a table, no forces are acting upon it. Again, no, that's a misconception. Let's see here. Force is a property of an object. An object has a force, and when it runs out of the force, it stops moving. So some of these misconceptions are the same as in the last video. And a force is needed to keep an object moving with a constant speed. Students do not realize that gravity and friction are forces. Well, that might be the case for most of the students in the state of Ohio, but for our Sandy Valley students, that is not the case, because for certain, they know our forces. Not sure what's going on. You could try to send me an email. But I am not going to guarantee it. But you have the packet. Make sure you're studying this packet. Hang on. This packet right here. Make sure you're studying that. Okay, because it's going to have, let's see here, that's the packet. It's going to have what you need. Oh, well, I've got a little delay. We've got a little slow internet going on here. I'll take my halo off. It's going to have everything you need. Okay, so if you study that packet, you should get an A. Just a reminder, the end of the 9 weeks is tomorrow. Okay, so this is really the last chance for you to really bring that grade up. All right, well, thank you again for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow. Stop podcast. Okay.